Kamala Markandaya's Nectar in a Sieve. Kamala Markandaya. Kamala Markandaya was born on 1st January 1924 and died 16 May 2004. Kamala Markandaya, pseudonym of Kamala Purnaya, and she was a British Indian novelist and journalist, and one of the most important Indian novelists writing in English. She is a native of Mysore, which is in India. Markandaya moved to Britain, though she still labelled herself an Indian expatriate long afterwards. Nectar in a Sieve, Possession, which is a novel, The Nowhere Man, Two Virgins, A Silence of Desire, A Handful of Rice, Bombay Tiger, which was posthumously published, are her important works. Nectar in a Sieve, published in 1954, was Markandaya's first novel and quickly became a bestseller, especially in America. She died in 2004. Full title of the novel is Nectar in a Sieve. When written 1954, and it was written in England, and it was published in 1954 itself. The literary period of the novel is post-colonial, and genre it is semi-autobiographical novel. The setting it is an impoverished Indian village. Climax of the novel is Rukmini and Nathan make an ill-fated journey to the city to find their son. Rukmini and Nathan are the protagonists of the novel, and the antagonist in the novel is poverty. The novel is in the first person point of view. Important characters. Rukmini is the novel's protagonist and narrator. She is a peasant farmer, wife and mother living in rural India. At the age of 12, she marries a poor farmer, Nathan. She soon becomes a mother and faces the daunting task of providing for an increasing number of children, including Airavati, Arjun, Thampi, Murugan, Raja, Selvam, Kutti and the adopted Puli. And the next important character is Nathan. Nathan, Rukmini's husband, is a kindly and gentle tenant farmer. Although Nathan and Rukmini represent archetypal Indian peasants, Nathan's behavior as a husband helps combat widely held stereotypes about this demographic. Nathan is a surprisingly patient and caring husband. The next important character is Kenny. Kenny is a British doctor who lives and works in the village. Rukmini Kenny at her dying mother's bedside, and she seeks treatment from him for infertility. Next, it is Airavati. Airavati is Rukmini's eldest child and only daughter. When Airavati is born, Rukmini is disappointed because Nathan needs some sons who can help him work the land. However, she and Nathan grow fond of their firstborn. And then Kundi. Kundi is Rukmini's beautiful and alluring neighbor. Kundi is aloof and arrogant because she comes from a wealthy background and considers life in the village beneath her. While Rukmini becomes close with the other village women like Kali and Janaki, Kundi is always rude and insolent to her. And Arjun. Arjun is Rukmini's eldest son. While Nathan hopes his sons will join him on the farm, Arjun and his younger brother Thampi reject the irritating land they will never own and find work at the new tannery that is propelling the town towards urbanization. Murugan is Rukmini's third son. Murugan moves to a large city to work as a servant and eventually marries a woman he meets there, Ammu. Then Selvam. Selvam is Rukmini's fifth son. Like his older brothers, Selvam elects not to join Nathan on the farm. Instead, he becomes Kenny's apprentice and trains to work in the large hospital that Kenny is building. Then Kutti. Kutti is Rukmini's youngest son. Kutti is born just after Airavati's marriage collapses, and his older sister cares for him as if he is her own child. Then Puli. Puli is a street child whom Rukmini befriends when she travels to the city in search of Murugan. Then other important characters, Janaki neighbor in the village. Father is there, Rukmini's father is a village headman and ostensibly the most powerful person in his town. But during Rukmini's childhood, his position becomes increasingly meaningless as local power concentrates in the hand of British colonial officials. Then Airavadi's son, an illegitimate child, Airavadi conceives while working as a prostitute. Minor characters, Thambi is Rukmini's second son. Raja is Rukmini's fourth son. Then Kali is Rukmini's neighbor in the village. Mother, Rukmini's mother. Although Rukmini leaves home at a young age, she visits her mother whenever she can and is present at the deathbed. Then Shivaji, the local rent collector. Granny, a poor local fruit seller. Bishwas, a local merchant and money lender. Then Ammu, Murugan's wife. Birla, a female doctor for whom Murugan works for a while. Nectar in a Sieve takes place at the end of the colonial period. The plot summary, Rukmini begins to tell her life story. She is born the daughter of a village headman and the youngest of 4 daughters. As she watches her sisters getting married, she dreams of her own extravagant wedding, although her mother gently warns her that hers will be much more modest because she is the youngest girl. Little money is left for her dowry. When Rukmini turns 12, her family marries her to a tenant farmer named Nathan, a match that many think is beneath her. When Rukmini leaves home in her husband's cart, she is nervous and even vomits once during the journey. However, Nathan is kind and soothes her fears. Rukmini is dismayed to see that Nathan lives in a mud hut, but to avoid hurting her kindly husband, she pretends to be pleased with her new home. Rukmini quickly becomes acquainted with her neighbors, talkative Kali, careworn Janaki, and the pregnant and beautiful Kundi. Rukmini becomes close with Kali and Janaki, but Kundi always keeps her distance. Rukmini is aware that without many practical skills, she is more hindrance than help to her husband. However, Nathan is patient and praises her lavishly for every accomplishment. When Kundi goes into labor, Rukmini is the only neighbor at home. Kundi entreats Rukmini to leave her alone, but Rukmini assumes that other woman is delirious from pain and fear and stays on to attend her. When she finally returns home, Nathan is unusually cross, telling her not to forget about her own pregnancy and herself. Rukmini starts practicing writing, even though it's considered useless for a girl. Rukmini vows to teach her own children to read and write as well. Nathan is illiterate and he admires his wife's abilities. Rukmini appreciates this. Many husbands would be uneasy with an educated wife and even forbid them to read. Soon, Rukmini gives birth to a daughter, Airavadi. She is upset that her first child is a girl, but soon grows fond of her. Nathan also dotes on his daughter, even though many fathers aren't fond of girls. Rukmini doesn't conceive another child for 6 years. Each time she visits her parents, she and her mother pray fervently at the temple for more children. Rukmini confesses her fears of infertility to a British doctor named Kenny, who treats her, and Rukmini soon becomes pregnant with her son Arjun. Everyone in the village celebrates, but Rukmini never confesses to Nathan that she sought help from a strange doctor. In the following years, Rukmini gives birth to 4 more sons, Thambi, Murugan, Raja and Selvam. While she is relieved to provide Nathan with sons, They stretched the family's resources thin and forced Rukmini to sell most of her vegetables. One day, young Arjun runs into the house to tell Rukmini that change is coming to the village. Hundreds of men have arrived and are building a tannery in the village square. For months, the building progresses until one day the tannery is complete and the workers depart. Some people are sad to see them go because they bought lots of local goods, but Rukmini is relieved. Their presence drives prices up and makes the town unsafe for children. So Nathan cautions that workmen will surely return to operate the tannery. But Rukmini no longer allows Airavati to go to town on her, curtailing her daughter's freedom because of the influx of strange men. Soon after, Rukmini is collecting dung for fuel when she sees Kenny arriving for a visit. Kenny scorns Rukmini's country's habits like burning dung, but he is very polite to her children and addresses Nathan gravely in their local language. From this point, Kenny comes to the house frequently, bringing sweets for her children and sometimes goat's milk for Selvam. Rukmini knows that he treats workers at the tannery, but she has no idea what he does when he travels away from the village, or if he has a family. Eventually, the time comes to select a husband for Airavati. Although Airavati has a small dowry, she is very beautiful and manages to secure a good husband who will one day inherit a lot of land. Aira is nervous to leave home, but accepts her parents' decision without protest. At the end of the wedding, as Rukmini watches Airavati drive off with her new husband, she can't quite believe that she no longer sleeps under her roof. That year, the monsoon came early and are very rough on the crops and the cottage. When the monsoon ceases, Rukmini takes some of their small stash of rupees to buy rice. But she is astounded to see that prices have risen sharply because of damage from the monsoon. 5 years after Airavati's wedding, Rukmini is surprised to see her return home with her husband. Airavati is barren, and he is returning her home in order to take another wife. Airavati is depressed by the collapse of her marriage. Around this time, Arjun and Thambi seek jobs in the tannery. With Airavati at home, there is not enough food to go around. With the wages the boys bring in, Rukmini is able to provide better meals for the family and start saving up for their weddings. When Nathan leaves home to attend a funeral, Rukmini walks into town to consult Kenny about Airavati's infertility. He tells her to send her daughter to see him. On her way home, she encounters Kundi in an alley, and the woman insolently suggests that she has been taking advantage of her husband's absence to clandestinely visit other men. Rukmini slaps her and then notices that Kundi is wearing a revealing sari and has sandalwood paste spread sensuously over her body. She hurries home. Arjun and Thambi leave home for good to work on tea plantations in Ceylon, and Murugan leaves to work as a servant in a large city. It's a dry year and the crops die from lack of water. When the rent collector Shivaji arrives, Nathan doesn't have the money to pay him. By selling the few possessions they have, the family scrapes together half the rent and agrees to pay the rest soon. When the rains finally come, the family plans again, but they are almost out of food. Rukmini carefully portions out their remaining rice and guards it closely, carrying some on her person and burying the rest. One day, Kundi arrives, gaunt and ragged. She blackmails Rukmini into giving her food, threatening to tell Nathan that she has seen her alone in the town. Rukmini soon finds the buried stash of rice has gone missing as well. And Nathan admits that he gave it to Kundi. She blackmailed him as well. threatening to tell Rukmini about an affair they had at the beginning of their marriage. Nathan is the father of both Kunti's sons. Rukmini is devastated, but she also feels that they are finally free from Kunti. Soon after, the villagemen bring Raja's dead body home from the village. He had been looking for food near the tannery and a watchman struck and killed him. Rukmini is numb and silent throughout the funeral. Two officials from the tannery inform Rukmini that the tannery isn't responsible for Raja's death and warn her against pressing charges. Rukmini has no idea how to take legal action, so she doesn't understand their visit. As the days go on, everyone in the family becomes weaker, especially Kuti. One night, Rukmini hears someone moving in the night. Thinking Kundi has come back to steal more, she attacks the stranger, only to realize it is Airavati. By her daughter's candy attire, she realizes that she has been working as a prostitute in order to buy food for Kuti. Rukmini is devastated and Nathan is angry, but they realize they can no longer compel their daughter to obey. Airavati buys food for the family, but Kuti dies of malnutrition. Rukmini sees Kenny, who has been away for several months in the village. She tells him that two of her sons have died, and he confesses that his wife has left him and he has estranged from his sons. Rukmini says that a woman should stay with her husband, and Kenny replies that she is too simple to understand the situation. Before leaving, Rukmini tells Kenny that Airavati is now pregnant with an illegitimate child. One day, Selvam informs his parents that he doesn't want to stay on the farm. Instead, he plans to apprentice with Kenny, who is building a new hospital in the town. Kenny excitedly shows Rukmini his plans, telling her he has raised funds from donors in Britain. Over time, Selvam spends more time with Kenny and less with his own family. He is becoming much more knowledgeable about the outside world than his own parents, and takes on many of Kenny's beliefs. Progress on the hospital is slow, and it seems like Kenny's funds may prove insufficient, but he moves to finish the project. Shivaji arrives and informs that the landlord is selling their farm to the tannery. The family has 2 weeks to move out. Devastated, they decide that Selvam and Airavati will stay in the town while Rukmini and Nathan travel to the city to seek out Murugan. It takes them 2 days to find his house, and they have to sleep in a temple. During the night, thieves steal their small bundles of possessions and all their money. A street child named Puli directs Rukmini and Nathan to Coil Street, where Murugan lives. However, when they arrive, they find he no longer works there. The new servants direct them to another house and they search the servants' quarters for their son. Instead, they find his wife Ammu and her sons. Murugan has abandoned her and she has no idea where he is. Ammu is exhausted and embittered from supporting her children alone. And Rukmini is ashamed that Murugan has been a bad husband. Rukmini and Nathan don't know what to do next, since they don't even have enough money to return home. Rukmini decides to work as a scribe and reader in the marketplace and set up a little stall. However, few people believe that a woman can actually read, so she makes barely enough money to buy rice. Well versed in the city's ways, police suggest that Rukmini and Nathan work in the stone quarry, where they can make more money. Over time, Puli attaches himself to the family, guiding them around the city and guarding their store of money. Rukmini offers to take him home as well, but he scornfully tells her he doesn't want to live in a small village. One day, Rukmini finds Nathan burning with fever. He dies the next day. Convincing Puli to come with her, Rukmini uses her small savings to pay for the Journey home. Selvam and Airavati welcome her return with joy and relief.